Hey guys, DIY Dad here, and in addition to the unfinished projects back there, you can see we also just got a cat. And that's leading me to today's little shenanigans. We've got a litter box that's in the laundry room downstairs, and that little guy who likes to be able to get to it all the time, but a door we'd like to be able to close occasionally. So we are going to make a cat pass today. So this is the exercise room in our basement, and that is the door to the laundry room. You can see we actually have it braced because the kids kept closing it, and that blocks off access to the box and stuff, and that's not good for the cat. So what we're going to do right about there in the wall is we're going to build a tunnel, essentially, that will allow our cat to go into the next room. Pretty simple structure for this. I'm going to build a box out of wood because we do have stuff stored on that side of the wall. I want to make sure nothing gets dropped in front of this that would block off access. We'll trim out the edge, probably cut a little bit into the bottom of the trim here just to make it look a little cleaner. And then we'll build a door for it as well. Because there are occasionally times where cat needs to go be private and we need to keep him in there if we have company or whatnot. We've got that room completely set up for him on the other side. So he's nice and comfy, but sometimes needs to stay there because he is a kitten. This is inside the laundry room, and you can kind of see my problem. We have stuff stored on the wall here, and where the tunnel's going to come out is essentially where this pile of miscellaneous bin lids is. So these are all going to get moved. I'll clear all this stuff out of there. And I'm going to build a box that's roughly the size of the carrier that he's used to, because I know he's comfortable with that. So we'll build that, so that'll come out probably about flush with the end of this little rack, and then go into the wall. And you can see I have an unfinished wall on this side, so I'll mount it to that stud just to keep everything stable. Build the box first, build the entry, do all of that, and then I'll cut the hole in the wall as my absolute last thing. Now on trim on the other side is going to lift this thing off the floor a little bit. So on this side, I'm going to build a little ramp down so that he has an easy way to kind of get down off of it into the room. We'll carpet the whole thing so I have some scraps left over, and that'll give us an extra layer of protection against cat litter and that kind of thing getting tracked out. So like most of my projects, this one is going to start with a sketch, and this is what I'm picturing. So from the laundry side, essentially what I'm going to do is build a box with a ramp. And I went around my garage and found just scrap material I've left over from previous projects. I'm going to use all of that, and that kind of led me to my measurements a bit. This shelving is 15 3/4 inches tall. That's almost exactly how tall I wanted this box to be, so I'm going to make it that tall. So this will be 15 3/4 inches tall. This is also just shy of 4 feet. So each one of the sides on this will be 22 inches long. That's gonna allow me to get close to that edge of the shelf on the inside of the laundry room. And then for the width, I measured our cat's carrier and kind of extrapolated a little bit. So the overall width of this is going to be 8.5 inches. That gives me an inside width of 7 inches, which is almost the same size as the opening in his carrier. He's totally comfortable with that, so I know that'll work. I am going to be putting a door on this, and after looking at it a little bit, decided, because I have to go too far, to make this look a little bit more like a front door to a house. So eventually, this will be embellished out a little bit. But what I'm gonna do is take our existing tall baseboard trim, and I'm gonna cut it down beyond the angle so that it's nice and squared. That leaves me with about a 4-inch lip here that I need to account for. So my interior measurement, I've accounted for that. So I've got my 4-inch lip, and then my inner side leaves me a door that's going to be 7 inches wide by about 10.5 inches tall. So not a lot to show with this next part. I'm just going to basically cut everything out, and then assembly on this will be similar to most of my projects, be using pocket holes and screws and running everything together. So essentially what I'm going to do now is build the main box. I'll cut my shelving to length. I'll get that all set up and ready to go. I'm going to use this piece of scrap shelving as the top of the box. I'll get that all in place, and then we'll have a basic box, and I can figure out the ramp and then figure out how this is going to threshold in. My thought with this is that I'll actually kind of key it a little bit so that I can cut the hole in the wall and make this thing sort of slot in so that it comes out almost flush with the wall on the exercise room side. And then I'll trim around the outside once it's all done. It should look nice and clean. We won't get sheetrock dust and things like that. Main box is cut and assembled. I can see a couple little changes that I made to it. I added this support on the inside. My intent is to have a ramp. It's gonna run from here down to that corner. And my thought is, since I'm gonna be notching this out so that sheetrock will be here and so forth, so this will stick over the sheetrock and kind of line up. Because of that, I wanted to leave room to have a little flat piece here kind of as a threshold, and then the ramp will go down from there. I'm gonna be using this material, which is just a 1/4 inch thick piece of composite. I'll make a flat bit here that'll go all the way out and rest on the trim, so it'll actually stick out a little bit from this, and then I'll have the ramp. So my next step is going to be to measure from the angle here down to the corner to figure out how long my ramp needs to be. I'll get that ripped and cut and attach that. So then this box will be ready to go in. I'll then measure up 4 inches for the height of the trim that I'm cutting. And in, I believe it's 1/2 inch sheetrock that I've got, but I'll check once I get down there. So I'll measure in though, so that the sheetrock will allow this to kind of sit and come flush with the painted edge. And then when I trim out from it, we'll get a nice clean presentation along the side. My door is gonna be made out of this material that I had that was just leftover scrap. I've already kind of lined that up and measured it. I have to tweak it a little bit to make sure it's smaller than the inside dimension here. And then I'll put a small piece of wood, just a little strip, kind of along the inside edge so that when the door closes, it closes in flush but doesn't swing all the way into the inside. The ramp is installed, and I've got this laying on its side so I can show you how I did this. Essentially, I had my support piece already. I measured from the edge of the support piece down to the corner, figured out the length of the ramp. I then shortened things a little bit because I wanted this ramp to be inset a little on the inside. So I measured this essentially at 19 inches, cut it to 7 inches wide, stuck it in there. Everything fit nice and tight. To actually attach the ramp then, what I did is lined it up flush here at the bottom corner, and obviously have it on its support there. And I picked a spot about halfway through, and I measured how far in the ramp was on the bottom, replaced that measurement here, and drew a line from where this intersects up to there, and then all the way up to that support. That line that you can see very faintly here is essentially the bottom edge of my ramp. So then with my brad nailer, I just went slightly above that line and punched my nails in every couple inches. They all sunk nice and straight right into the middle of the ramp, and everything will be nice and clean, tight and secure. Now this ramp's gonna be supported on the bottom edge by the floor and the top edge by this little support bar, which is screwed in. So I'm not worried about the weight of the cat making a difference here. This is mainly just to keep everything really tight and really nicely connected. So I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side, and then I'll go inside, cut our hole, measure for my offset, cut this piece, then this can slide in. Once I've got everything kind of dry fit and I know that everything works, I have a carpet scrap that matches the carpet in the exercise room. It's actually currently under our cat's litter box, so it smells like him, he's comfortable with it. That's what I'm going to be putting on the ramp here and on the threshold. Once that's all in place, we'll deal with the door. All right, so inside, looking at where the box is going to sit, everything is going to line up. I've already kind of dry fit it, but looking at this 2x4 for my wall, I'm going to need to notch out for that as well. So I'm going to notch out in the bottom of the box a 3.5 by 1.5 inch space, allowing the box to sit kind of over that and then through the sheetrock. So I will measure out probably 4 inches in to account for that and the sheetrock. So there's a little bit of a gap, I don't care. And then I'll do the piece kind of coming up 4 inches from the floor as well to allow me to account for the trim on the other side. The reason I keep saying 4 inches is my intent is to cut this down. So get rid of this character piece and then have a piece of trim that kind of comes up around the framing here. And from here to the floor is 4 inches. All right, the main hole is cut and I cut the trim down. So I've got room for my little threshold piece here. I've got it dry fit, everything fits nice and snug. So I'll be able to tie this against the stud on this side. We're nice and flush with the wall, so it should trim out well, or it will be nice and flush. So everything should trim nicely. I'm gonna get to work on the door and the threshold piece, which is gonna go from here back to there and then be wrapped in carpet. And then at that point, it's just trimming this out. So I'll probably have to cut this out a little bit further to make way for the trim. I'm not sure what I'm using on the trim yet. I'm gonna see what I've got for scrap. So based on the measurement of how wide that is, that'll affect how far over I need to go. But essentially, I'll just end up notching out just a little bit more of this to run the trim up. So I got the door cut. Now for the door, I went and I remeasured the opening, and as you can see, the actual opening is quite a bit smaller than I thought it was going to be because of the angle of the ramp and the way the trim laid out and everything else. So this is the actual size I need, which is about 6 3/4 by 9 inches. So that's gonna be my door. And I should at this point probably just paint it, stop, and be done. But I'm not going to. Instead, what I'm gonna do is take a piece of this 1/4 inch plywood and I'm going to rip a couple strips of it. And I'm gonna use it to embellish this door so it looks more like a panel door. So I'll just kind of do like a perimeter and a crossbar just to make it a little bit more interesting. And then I'll paint it white and put a catch on it and it'll be good to go. Here's the finished door. So nothing really, special. I just used bits of this thin plywood just to embellish it. So now I'll just putty these little nail holes, sand it smooth, and then paint the whole thing gloss white, and we'll have a front door for our little pass-through. At that point then, last part is just full assembly. So I'll put the hinges on, pop it in place. I have some touch-up to do downstairs and some painting, and when I check back in, we'll be done. So this is our finished product. You can see we've got a little door painted, a little latch on it. And inside then is pass-through, and obviously he's very comfortable using it. And then we just did a few embellishments here, like a little front step and a little welcome mat, and his name on the outside, little footprint. Pretty simple project. He's very possessive of it already, which is kind of cool. And yeah, there we go. All right, that's gonna wrap us up for this project, and I'm sitting in kind of a dangerous spot because he has come running up this ramp and attacked me twice already while I've been doing this. But in honor of our newest member to the family, I am gonna leave you with a dad joke today, and we're going to do one that's cat related. So, what is a cat's favorite color? Purple. All right, that's gonna wrap me up for today. Remember, with any DIY project, it doesn't have to be perfect. First step and most important step is just to do it. Remember to like and subscribe for more content like this. We'll see you next time.